Well, hello. I promised an updated testimony, and here we are for me to deliver and spill my guts. So, I'm titling this testimony, God's Always Called Me Further Than I Ever Imagined. And I go a little bit more in depth than my first one, and I really focus especially on this last year and some of the building that God's been doing in my life. I typically look straight at the camera and talk, but I have quite a lot here. So we're just going to read for the most part. I will try to be engaging though. So in the book of Numbers, there is a story where the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh settle outside the promised land as Israel is going forward and conquering kingdoms, moving towards the promised land. They were passing through this land. They're like, hey, this is really good for cattle. We've got a lot of cattle. Like, how about we just stay here? Like, we're chill with this. Like, you can go ahead. Like, I'm good here. And so often we reflect that. Like, we're like, our lives are becoming so abundant and fruitful where we're at. We don't need to keep going. Like, we're good here. We're so much better off than where we were before. We're good here. Like, we don't need to go forward. You can go forward if you want to, but like, we like it here. And the problem was that, well, there's multiple problems, but God wants more for you than just settling beyond your past. Getting beyond it, He wants to bring you even further. He wants to bring you further. And so Moses became angry with these three tribes, and he asked them why they were discouraging their brothers from moving forward. And I was kind of confused when I first heard this, because I was like, they're not really discouraging from going forward. They're like, I'll just stay back here. You guys can go. Like, they need them as well. They need them as well. God called all of them. God's calling you further. Oh, I can go this far. I don't need to drop this habit. I don't need to drop this. I can hold on to this. Like, I'm good where I'm at. I can hold on to something. I don't need to go all the way to the promised land. Honey, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because God will wreck you before you wreck yourself. Off topic. Well, it's not off topic, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, when we settle, we don't just limit the blessing God has for us. We limit the blessing that God has for those around us. They were limiting the blessing of the other tribes by not wanting to, how do I put it? Not wanting to be with them as they move forward, not fully supporting this endeavor. They're just kind of like, nah. And how does that affect them? We'll get into that as we go. Like, I'll really be hitting on this point, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Anyways, it's hard for us to move on from something that we see as good, but God sees more than we will ever see. We worry, what will I face after this? Like, this is good. Will the next thing be good or better, or will I regret it? And will I want to come back here? Like, I don't know. All those times that the Israelites complained about leaving Egypt, if you've read it, it's so exhausting. It's exhausting because you're like, why can't you just trust God? Like, He's never failed you. He's made all these promises. He's going to get you there. Why can't you just trust Him? But we also know the ending, and they didn't. They had the promise, they didn't have the ending, which I think we can relate to. I think about all the times where, once my situation looks bleak, I'm like, I'll bail. Like, did I just think that? Did I just do that? Have I started to complain to and about God? Have I been scared to ask Him to push me forward because I'm scared of what's going to come next, and I like the good that He had earlier? Like, He's never failed me, so why do I always rebel? rebel, that's the word, okay. Why do I always rebel when a source of comfort is taken away from me? Well, God needs to get rid of that idol so that I can learn to trust him fully, that he's my true source of comfort. Looking back at all the pains and failures of my past, I can't help but see how they only brought me closer to God and his promises for me. Growing up in a church where I was bullied and had no friends, I didn't have that fellowship. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't have a relational founding in the church or with God or with his son Jesus. And I merely saw God as this distant judge that would give us knowledge through his word. It was just knowledge. You either knew this or you didn't. So I committed to learning it, and I built my life and my purpose in that. And that's all I saw God as. And it was really empty. Moving forward to middle school, my life was turned upside down like pretty much every single teenager that has ever lived. I realized, because you start to realize things when you're a teenager, I realized that my family was kind of toxic sometimes, and I didn't know what to do about it. Like, I didn't want this for me. So I decided I'm just going to remove myself from the situation, because I didn't know what else to do. And that was just very lonely. And I think a lot of people can relate to that in their teens. It's just very lonely. And I also started noticing at this time mental illness is starting to take over my life. I thought this was too taboo to seek help for or talk about. Like, I would just try to pray it away. God can do anything. Let's just pray it away. And sure, he can take it away if he wants to. And it's great if you want to pray for it, but that was my only solution, is just pray it away and it'll be gone if you just keep praying. By high school, I was self-harming via cutting and starving myself because I didn't think I deserved to eat, and I didn't think I deserved to not be in pain, which is terrible. And my only coping skill was self-depreciating humor, which only made things worse. I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like, so I was really good at getting into unhealthy ones. And I hung on to them because I didn't think that I could be wanted. So the fact that like somebody actually wanted me in their life was like, I won't get this chance again. Like, if you're in that stage, you will. Talk to people. Anyways, talk to me. Oh my goodness, I can't stress that enough. Girls in high school and middle school, you are worth so much. You are worth so much. I'm going off script now, but you are worth so much. And God does so much good for you. Do not settle over a boy. Do not settle. Do not. I will hype you up if you need me to. Just message me. We'll talk through this if you need help. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. It's not off topic, it's just off script. Anyways, with time, I realized how empty I was and decided I was going to take my life. And that's when God stepped in. I don't recall a defining moment where the things just turned around, but bit by bit, I started to give my life to him and build trust in him. I refused to seek help, though, for my mental illness. But I did start life again slowly. By the time I graduated high school, I had gone really far, and I was so happy. I had found a church home with so many wonderful, godly friends, and I was baptized. I was starting to embrace my testimony rather than being afraid of it, ashamed of it. I felt like I was on top of the world, like nothing could bring me down. But I wasn't at the promised land. I was so far from where I started. I knew what fellowship was now. I knew what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus. I knew what it was to have friends that encouraged you and loved you and all this stuff. But I didn't let God have all of me. I still held on to my pride by denying my mental illness. I wanted to park my life on that mountain, but that's not where I was meant to stop. I wanted the comfort of not having a diagnosis I can't control. I said, this is mine. I would not be worth it. I'd be a burden if I sought help. I'm good where I'm at. Something we often tell ourselves. And I wouldn't let God have it. I settled. I needed to listen and trust God moving forward, and I stayed. Because of that, not only did I suffer, but those around me suffered. There were several people in my life that I'd come to love more than I ever knew was possible. But when I entered a depression, it was a really bad depression, not just a depression, it was a really bad depression. I watched them hurt with me to the point where they left me. And they were still moving without me. They were moving forward. I was the one settling. It was a long and excruciating process over the next several months as everyone near me told me goodbye. And after my last close friend said that they hated me, which was probably the most harshest words out of everybody. So don't think everybody's like, oh, I hate you. No, this was just kind of like, I knew everything was my fault. Somehow. But I couldn't understand how. And I came to the conclusion that I must not be made to be a member of the house of God. I told myself, if I am a part of the body of Christ, I'm the appendix, because nobody knows why I'm there, and if I start acting up, they'll just get rid of me. I was a pain in everyone's side. I did nothing different. I didn't talk or act different. I didn't try reaching out because I felt nothing left in me that saw my worth. There was nothing left in me that saw my worth that needed to be rescued. I knew there were people that still loved me, but that I didn't think that mattered anymore. People love sin too. I was angry with God that He ever made me, that I was only a curse, never meant to be in His house. So I decided I'd kill myself again. You know what I mean. 2 weeks later, I attended church for what I thought was the last time. I kept up this facade for 2 weeks, figured it all out, and I went to church and I saw these people that I had hurt, that I had been so close to, that I'd never been so vulnerable with in my life before, that I just poured out to them, and they had been part of my life in ways that I never thought anybody could be vulnerable to me. And I just felt shame. And I looked at some of my potential friendships that had been starting to build, and I thought, they're lucky. They're so much better off now that they won't get a chance to know me better. They'll never get a chance to be close to me, so I can wreck it up somehow. Because I'll do it. Like I did with all the others. I'm sure I'll do it again. Spoiler alert, I didn't die. God used even this to show me that not even I could mess up His plan for me. Not even I could mess up His plan for me. That's what I'm going to title this video, actually. Okay, okay, when I post that, that's going to be the title. Just to reiterate my stuttering, I could not mess up the plan God had for me. I didn't argue or ask him for a way out. I didn't care. But he made a way still. And the moment before I couldn't go back, God showed up. And it's a moment I'll never forget. I was given a simple instruction at that time. Go to your church life group. And it was a Sunday night. They were going to meet in like an hour. So I drove straight there. And I was 30 minutes early. I sat in my car, panicking, having a breakdown the whole time. Just wanting to leave, but like knowing I need to be here. I was sent here. I need to be here. I was sent here. During the meeting, I kept silent, afraid I was going to have a mental breakdown in front of everyone at any moment. Finally, as we were taking prayer requests, I cracked. I confessed to the group of ladies what happened earlier that day. Step one in the right direction. But it was no miraculous switch. I still felt no reason to be alive, and that my confession and obedience did nothing. I didn't have much faith, but I didn't need much. God doesn't require that much, and praise God. I decided to trust God again with each small surrender. If I couldn't trust God, who could I? Might as well try. After a few months, I took myself to the doctor, a Gen Z nightmare. I had been praying to God differently. Rather than asking him to take away my illness, I sought his path. I surrendered and I said, I don't know. I know that you can get me through this. I know you can get me through anything, but what is your will? Your will is what's best for my life. And while I hope that your will is that I won't have to reach out because I'm embarrassed and pride, if you want me to, I will. And the response I got, yes, I can get you through this. I can get you through anything. We'll get through anything. I'll get you through this one way or another. But you will regret if you do not see a doctor. And can I just say regret is a terrifying word, especially when it comes from God. Regret. And now I look back after having gone to the doctor, after having medicine and getting the chemicals in my brain that everybody else already had that I just didn't have. I'm dependent on things that people just have naturally. I just didn't have it naturally. Like, there's nothing to shame me for, which I always did. I left where I had settled, opening the door to myself and enabling myself the ability to encourage others. So many times we seek to settle for where we found our temporary stability. But God's leading us even further, where he is a rock and what's ours is his. I want to encourage you, don't stop, don't limit the blessing that God has in store for you. So, what I want to say in reflection, I didn't write this, I didn't think this one through, I figured I just see what came to me after reading. But I want you to know, wherever you are in life, that you're not done yet. God's not done yet. And there's always more. There's always more. Like, those of you who go to my church, Pastor Joel has been talking about how it's never just. There's always more. There's always more. I'll reiterate it. There's always more. There's always more to dig up inside of you, more things that need to be healed, more things that need to be addressed. Don't stop working on yourself. Even though it seems good now, and you're scared that it might not be good once you work on this, it's going to be amazing. Give it over to God and watch Him work. I pray that whatever you are facing right now, you find the strength and the will and the faith to give it to God and to watch your life be transformed by it. Love you all.